She had lived in silence so long that even the sound of her own footsteps seemed foreign to her, and the wooden floor of the old cabin groaned, only to remind her she still walked this earth, a widow who had long since given up on the company of men or neighbors, or even the simple gossip of a nearby town. For to Mary Callahan, silence had become both punishment and friend, the only companion who did not ask questions about the life she had lost when her husband rode out one morning to never return, his body discovered weeks later riddled with bullets and stripped of his horse. And in the ache of that grief she had sworn to bury her heart away in this lonely corner of the frontier where, sagebrush whispered, and coyotes sang to the moon. But on that particular evening, when the last smear of sunset bled into the hills, and a storm gathered like a warning across the high plains, she heard a sound she'd not heard in years, the heavy tread of boots on the dirt outside, a weight that shook the quiet world she had built for herself. And when she gripped the old rifle her husband had left behind and stood at the door, she expected some drifter, some outlaw seeking a place to steal a meal. But when she opened it, lantern light spilling across the porch, she found herself staring up, far up, into the face of the largest Apache man she had ever seen, his broad shoulders cloaked in a weather-worn blanket, his dark eyes steady but not cruel, and beside him, leaning on his arm with the frailty of age and hardship, was an old woman wrapped in shawls, her silver hair glinting like frost beneath the brim of night. And before Mary could speak, before she could demand what business they had on her land, the giant spoke in a voice deep as thunder yet careful, as if not to startle her. "We seek only shelter for one night. My mother is weary." And Mary felt her heart slam against her ribs, torn between the fear taught to her by every warning whispered in towns about Apaches and the simple human pull of compassion at seeing the elder woman's trembling form. She should have said no, should have told them to leave and taken no risk. Yet her mouth betrayed her heart when she lowered the rifle and stepped aside, muttering, "Just one night, no more," and the two stepped inside, bringing with them the scent of the open plains and the weight of stories she could not yet imagine. The giant carefully lowering his mother into the chair by the fire with a gentleness that stunned Mary. For men his size was supposed to be violent, at least that was the tale. But his every move spoke of honor and care, and when his mother lifted her wrinkled hand in greeting and whispered something in a language Mary could not understand, she felt strangely ashamed of every fear that had rushed to her mind. Still, she guarded herself, busying with stirring the pot on the hearth, her voice sharp as she asked their names. And the giant bowed his head slightly, saying, "They call me Tahoma," while his mother simply smiled, her name spoken in a syllable soft as wind, "Naya." And that was the beginning of a night that would shake every belief Mary had about the world, beyond her cabin walls. For as the storm beat against the roof and lightning split the horizon, the three of them sat within, the silence broken not by fear but by story. And Mary learned how Tahoma had wandered far with his mother to keep her safe after raiders and sickness tore through their people, how he carried on his massive shoulders the weight of survival, and she in turn spoke little of her pain, but enough that he understood she too carried ghosts. And when his mother reached across the table and laid her frail hand on Mary's, something inside her cracked open like the earth in spring, a reminder that she was not as alone as she thought, that perhaps God had not forgotten her after all. And though fear still gnawed at her mind, fear of what the nearby town would say if they ever discovered she harbored Apache guests, fear of the dangers that followed strangers, Mary could not deny the warmth spreading through her small cabin, a warmth that came not only from the fire but from the company of two souls who had knocked on her door at the edge of despair. The night stretched long, and though she had promised herself she would not sleep, the steady rhythm of rain and the soft murmur of voices lulled her. And in that fragile moment before dawn, when she opened her eyes to find Tahoma still awake by the fire, guarding his mother's rest, She felt something stir in her chest. She thought had died forever, trust. And little did she know that this single night, meant only as a brief act of mercy, would unravel into days of danger, of battles fought against prejudice and shadows from the past, and would bind her fate to the giant and his mother in ways that would test her courage like never before. So stay with this tale, dear listener, because what follows is not just a story of survival, but of unexpected bonds forged in the harsh Wild West. And if you want to know how Mary's quiet, broken life became a saga of loyalty, danger, and love, then make sure to subscribe now, because the second chapter will carry you deeper into the storm where every choice could mean life or death.